In the name of God, the gracious, the merciful, we give him praise and thanks for his mercy and his goodness to the human family. If all the trees upon the earth were pens to write with, and if all the oceans were ink, and then another 7 oceans to add to its supply, the writing would still not be enough to explain the glory of God, for he's the exalted, all-powerful, all-wise. We confide in no other in our time of need, and we praise no other in our good fortune. And even if I live to be 1,000, it still will not be enough to thank him for his many blessings and gifts. He is one. This is Brother Shareef with the Hour of Power. Go to Hour of Power, Shareef Hamid on YouTube. Subscribe and share the channel so we can continue to lift the mind, body, and soul of our people and eventually all of humanity. We're setting the bar high. So again, this is Brother Shareef with the Hour of Power. Before I get into this evening's message, I want to give everyone a quick outline of what's going on with the channel. Last night we interviewed Dr. Antoinette Brown out of Washington, D.C. She laid it down when it comes to the mental health crisis of Black people in America, what to look out for, how to treat yourself, and how to get yourself right mentally, which will prevent physical problems. And she also gave some pointers about hiring practices and how people in HR departments question you in a certain way to see if you have any mental health issues. So those are tips that we definitely need. We have Brother John coming up November the 25th in York, Pennsylvania. Me and the brothers will be interviewing him, laying out an economic plan going forth for ourselves and for the youth and for the community, because economics is what makes things go and can free a lot of poverty, want, and violence. So Brother John will be laying that down November the 25th, 231 South George Street there in York, Pennsylvania. His daughter Amina secured a spot for us, so big ups to her for that. So that's November the 24th, November 25th in Pennsylvania. November the 30th on Facebook Live, we'll be interviewing Dr. Patricia Crisp, who is a natural healing doctor, who she'll be talking about healing the trauma, talking about sexual abuse, physical abuse, and neglect, and she'll be giving us pointers on how to heal ourselves internally, so once again we'll be healthy. This is what the Hour of Power does. We try to be as versatile as possible. So again, the motto is to lift the mind, body, and soul of our people. Tonight's message is called The Real Thanksgiving. The Real Thanksgiving. In just 1 or 2 days, many Americans across all racial lines, depending on your spiritual background, I'm not really into it, they'll be celebrating what they call Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving. So that's what a lot of people, they say it's one of the biggest traveling days of the year. Me personally, even though I'm a Muslim, I don't have a problem with the concept. Why? Because families are coming together. Sometimes families that haven't seen each other all year, or maybe haven't seen or communicated with each other in years, more or less all year. So you're breaking bread together, you're laughing, you're joking, you're communing, coming together with family and friends. So the concept of what they call Thanksgiving, I have absolutely no problem with. You're supposed to eat anyway. You're supposed to break bread with your family. Family is supposed to come together. In Islam, it says we are supposed to strengthen the ties of kinship, not divide it, like some of us do, because we're so dogmatic in what we believe, and we want to be so pushing about what we believe in. We become so dogmatic that we break away from our family. Oh, they're not a Christian, or they're not a Muslim, so I don't want nothing to do with them. But that goes totally against the life of Jesus, the life of Muhammad, the Bible, and the Quran. Sorry to tell you, you're supposed to strengthen the ties of kinship, not divide them. But today's message is called The Real Thanksgiving. So again, in a couple of days, people will be sitting down breaking bread. But do you even know the history? And I don't want to rag on people on this too much, but you never can be reminded so much, because the real meaning of Thanksgiving, as it has been brought to us by America, is covered in bloodshed, murder, rape, and thievery. Sorry to burst your bubble, but that's what this Thanksgiving is about. Pilgrims, like Malcolm X said, we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us in Massachusetts there. The Native Americans who supposedly founded this country and was here first was there minding their own business, and in their tradition of sharing, these poor little people came over here called pilgrims. White people from Europe didn't have nothing but the clothes on their back, didn't know how to cook, didn't know how to make food, didn't know how to farm, didn't understand lighting. They were totally uncivilized. And these people, Native Americans, civilized them, fed them, showed them how to grow crops and irrigate the water. They civilized them. And once they got themselves established in this land, meaning the pilgrims who were white, and they were getting handouts for food, which would make them the first welfare recipients. Yes, the Native Americans were feeding them. I just told you. Showing them how to crop and irrigate the land and make food. They were the first welfare recipients. Not black people, not Mexicans, white people in this country. This is what the Native Americans did to them. Once they got established here, they started making wars in between the Native Americans so they could take over the land like they always do. Everywhere they go, they take the land, take the natural resources, pillage the land, rape and murder the people, and then take a land as if it's theirs. Ask the Africans. Yes, this is what they do. Ask the Australian Aborigines. I met a brother not too long ago who is a native of Australia, but he's African. His name is Brother AJ. I had the pleasure of meeting this brother, and he is a descendant of the Australian Aborigines. And if you don't know anything about them, just Google the genocide of the Australian Aborigines, how the British came over there, not 500 years ago, not 600 years ago, just a little over 120 years ago in Australia, and how they came in there, pillaged the land, raped the people, poisoned the water, and ran them people out of there and took over their land. And they spread so much disease and famine there that to this very day, the Australian Aborigines life expectancy is 55. 55 because of the high cancer rate and diabetes and hypertension and any other chronic disease you can think of. And this brother was saying he was amazed how, because this brother travels a lot. I just happened to run across him and he needed a ride somewhere, and I gave him a ride, but he travels a lot. He said it amazes him how he's came across supposedly highly educated people here in America, and he asked them, do you know about the genocide of my people in Australia? These doctors, lawyers, bankers had no idea. So we started talking, and he said, yeah, I'm from Australia. I said, yeah, I never met many black people from Australia. He said, well, yeah, I'm a descendant of the Australian Aborigines. And I said, I know about the Australian Aborigines. The genocide was performed against them, and their life expectancy is low. He couldn't believe that a black man in America knew that history. Of course, he didn't know my educational background, but he said, brother, I can't believe that you know about this, because every other born American, people born here in America that I've talked to have no idea about this history. I said, yes, I know about what's happened to the Aborigines there. They actually had a system called the game over there back in around 1788. They went there. These people invited them in, because that was their nature. They're almost like cousins of Africans. If you see some of the pictures of the Australian Aborigines 150 years ago, they look like Africans. They're short, kind of stocky build, dark complexion, a little darker than me. Some of them about the same complexion as me. Seized the land. Do you know, at gunpoint, they would get these people and they would give them about a half hour to an hour head start, and they would hunt them down, because they said they got bored with hunting animals, so they took on the sport of hunting humans. This is how demonic these people are. This is what happened in Australia. And then other TV shows start mimicking what happened to the Australian Aborigines there. Yes, if you look up the old Incredible Hulk show with Bill Bixby, back in 1977, they did a show called The Snare, where Bill Bixby, you know, he was like a roam. He just roamed around everywhere. He was in this airport about to go somewhere. He comes across this billionaire who owned his own island. This white man owned his own island. And he lowered Bill Bixby there, said, hey, you know, before you go off to wherever you're going, you can come have dinner with me. I can show you around. But really, he was lowering him in. He drugged Bill Bixby when he was at the table eating dinner. He drugged him. And then when Bill Bixby, which is David Banner, when he woke up, he was in this room and there was a tape recording of the man saying, I'm going to give you a half-hour head start. First of all, you're going to have to find your way out of this room. And if you're not out of this room by the time I get back from taking my walk, I'm going to kill you. And in case you're wondering why I'm doing this, look on the wall and you see all these heads of animals on the wall. He said, look on the wall. I got bored with hunting animals, so now I took on the sport of hunting humans. And he said, look to your left there. And then there was a picture of all these human beings who he had lowered to this island, and he hunted them down and killed them, going off of what happened in ancient Australia with the Australian Aborigines. People hunting other human beings, giving them a half-hour head start, and they actually named it The Game. The Game, giving human beings a head start. And the thing is, he already knew the land, so he knew where they were going to run to. I'm talking about in Australia and in this show called The Snare. Look it up. You can look it up on YouTube. You can look it up on YouTube under the original Credible Hawk. Google The Snare, 1977. They got that from hunting human beings from what happened in Australia with the genocide of the Aborigines. Hunting human beings. And the British already knew the land, so they knew where the people were going to run. Because they came there and took over their land and poisoned the water. Demonic. This black stuff I'm talking now. But this black stuff is facts. I'm not making this stuff up. I just happen to be a Muslim and I happen to be honest enough to tell the truth. And that makes me a racist? No, I'm just bold enough to speak the truth, and I fight where I stand on the injustices I see. If these injustices didn't go on, it would be nothing for me to talk about. Now, back to this fake Thanksgiving. I'm going to read this to you from this book. You should get this book. The Hidden History of Massachusetts. The Hidden History of Massachusetts. In this book, it talks about what happened with the supposed real Thanksgiving. I'm going to read you a quote. In one incident, around 1637, a force of whites trapped some 700 Pequot Indians, mostly women, children, and the elderly. Near the mouth of the Mystic River, which is in Massachusetts, the Englishman John Mason attacked the Indian camp with fire, sword, and blunderous tomahawks. Only a handful escaped, meaning the Indians. A few prisoners were taken at the apparent delight of the Europeans. This is the Europeans talking. To see them frying in the fire, in the streams of their blood quenching the same, and the stench was horrible. But the victory seemed to be the sweet sacrifice. They gave praise to their God. This is what the Europeans were saying about how they took over after the Native Americans took them in, clothed them, fed them, taught them how to make food, taught them how to irrigate crops and channel the water to get crops. This is what they do to them. This event marked the first actual Thanksgiving, meaning the murder and the bloodshed and frying them at the stake. Just 10 years later, 12,000 whites had invaded New England, which is Massachusetts. Massachusetts is what they call a New England state. New York is a New England state, and Connecticut is a New England state. And their numbers grew, and they pressed their all-out extermination of the Indians. Euro diseases had reduced the population of the Massachusetts nation from 24,000 to less than 750. Meanwhile, the number of European settlers in Massachusetts rose to more than 20,000 by 1646. By 1675, the Massachusetts Englishmen were in full-scale war with the great Indian chief Metacomet and the Wampum Indians. and they renamed him King Philip. Metacomet watched the steady erosion and lifestyle of the culture of his people and the European imposed laws and values engulfed them. This is what happened in there. And also, when Captain Benjamin Church tracked down and murdered Metacomet, who was an Indian chief there in 1676, his body was quartered into parts and left for wolves. The great Indian chief's hands were cut off, sent to Boston, and his head went to Plymouth, where it was set upon a pole for the real first day of public Thanksgiving and the revenge on the enemy, meaning the Native Americans. This was the first day of Thanksgiving. And then Abraham Lincoln comes along a couple centuries later, I guess in the late 1700s, 1600s, whenever Abraham Lincoln came along and named the fourth Thursday Thanksgiving. But this is the original Thanksgiving. No cranberry sauce, no turkey, okay? None of the dressings, nothing but murder and bloodshed. Their Thanksgiving was murdering the Native Americans, or the Indians as we call them, taking over their land, murdering their chief, Metacomet, and the Pequot Indians, where they murdered 700 a year later, and then reduced their population, meaning the Indian population, from 24,000 down to 750. And this is what, and it goes on and on about the murder and bloodshed, how their numbers kept dwindling, and how they praised about murdering and committing genocide on the Native Americans in the state of Massachusetts. And we know a lot about the New England Patriots and the Boston Garden with the Boston Celtics, but they don't tell you this history. Now, that's bloody. No turkey, no brotherly love, no cranberry sauce, no sweet potato pie, murder, bloodshed, cut the man's head off, quartered his body, and put his head on a pole for all to see. And they said that was the real actual first day of Thanksgiving in 1676, the Pilgrims, the first welfare recipients. Now, let me tell you what the real Thanksgiving is. I know that was bloody, and kind of graphic, but it's the truth. This is the real Thanksgiving, people. This is the real Thanksgiving. And when you hear this, you tell me if you hear anything about the fourth Thursday in November, turkey, cranberry sauce, sweet potatoes. Even though, like I said in the beginning, I love the concept of family getting together, but I'm just giving you truth. Now, when I read these verses, I want you to tell me if you hear anything about the fourth Thursday in November and turkey and cranberry sauce and sweet potato and pork and swine and all the other things some people participate in. In your Bible, Colossians chapter 4, verse 2 says, "Continue to be steadfast in prayer, being watchful, and in it thanksgiving." I'm going to say it again. In the Bible, Colossians chapter 4, verse 2, the Most High speaking, not Brother Shareef, but the Most High. Continue to be steadfast in prayer, being watchful, and in it thanksgiving. Not turkey, not cranberry sauce, not sweet potato pie. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 18, it says, "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God." 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 18, give thanks in all circumstances, meaning whether you're struggling or whether you're on top of the world. That's why I start out my message with the hour of power saying we praise no other in our good fortune, and we confide in no other in our time of need. The real thanksgiving, for this is the will of God. Psalms 100, verse 4. Enter his gates with thanksgiving. No cranberry sauce, no turkey, no sweet potato pie. Enter his gates with thanksgiving. His courts with praise. Give thanks to him and bless his holy name. Psalms 100, verse 4. In the Holy Quran, the book of the Muslims, will you not take heed? For should you try not to count the blessings of God? For you should try to count the blessings of God. You can never count them. That's in Holy Quran, chapter 16, verse 17 through 19. Will you not take heed? Meaning, will you not pay attention? For should you try to count the blessings of God, you will never be able to count them. Meaning he blesses us so much that most of us take it for granted. Most of us take it for granted. 2 eyes, 2 ears, a mouth, a tongue to speak with, 2 hands, 2 feet, 2 arms, 10 fingers, 10 toes, hopefully. That alone should give you thanksgiving. Me too. What would you do if you only had 1 eye or 1 arm or only 3 of your 5 fingers? What would you do? We have so much to be thankful for. And this is every day, not the 4th Thursday in November. Yes. Another quote from the Quran, chapter 7, verse 17 says, I, meaning Satan, will come at you from your left, from your right, from before you, from behind you, from before you and from behind you. And for most of them, they will not be thankful. This is Satan having a conversation with God after God put him out the kingdom for being arrogant. Because it said the angels bowed. But what happened to you, Satan? Or Iblis, his name was Iblis. What happened to you, Iblis? What makes you not want to bow before man? He said, you made them out of mud. Mud? Mud? Mud is black. But that's another topic. He said, you made them out of mud. You made me out of fire. He said, I'm not bowing down to him, meaning the human beings. He said, I'm not bowing down to them. I'm not bowing with them. I'm better than them. So God said, well, this ain't for the arrogant. Get out of here. And then Satan said, will you give me respite, meaning a fixed period of time to the day of judgment? God said, I'll give you respite. And then Satan came back and said, well, I'm going to come after your followers from the right, from the left, before, behind them. But most of them won't be thankful for your majesty, because he knew who the Most High was. He was just arrogant. Yes. Chapter 39, verse 7 in the Quran says, be grateful and God will be pleased with you. Be grateful and God will be pleased with you. And another famous saying, one thing that really brought me towards Islam, this is not a theology class. I'm just saying for anyone, whether you call yourself black conscious, whatever you call yourself, Hebrew Israelite, Christian, Muslim, whatever you call yourself. All I'm saying is be thankful. Most of us who have any kind of humility looks to something greater than us. I'm just giving you quotes that most of my audience can relate to. But this ain't a theology class. The Hour of Power, again, is a channel designed for social awareness and social change. That's what it's about. But one quote that I heard that really brought me to Islam said, if you take 1 step towards God, God will take 10 steps towards you. If you take 1 step towards him, he'll take 10 towards you. That sealed the deal for me as far as my spirituality and my path. So that's my piece for today. This, what I just read to you, family, is the real Thanksgiving. Every day that you're here, every second that you're here, every hour that you're here, we give thanks to the Most High for life. At one of the schools I was at today, I was in the nurse's office talking with a young man. This young man was only in 3rd grade and he had some kind of trach or something that was in his chest, and the nurse put some kind of tube and she was injecting his medicine through this tube. 3rd grade. And he was so brave, and he was just sitting there and he was like, thank you for giving me my medicine. I couldn't do this, without you, talking to the nurse. And I'm just sitting there like, my goodness, a 3rd grader. I don't know what his illness is, but he had, some kind of device in his chest, and she hooked the tube to it and she was injecting his medicine and water through this tube into his system. And he said, thank you. I mean, I couldn't imagine that. Just when you thought you had it bad, someone else got it 5 times worse. Be thankful for the Most High, for the sunlight, which gives life to the trees and to the plants, which gives us oxygen. I've talked to people from Africa where children have to walk 50 miles just to get a clean drink of water. 50 miles to get just a clean drink of water. And once they get to that river or that pond, they have to use what you call a siphon, which looks like a tube or a straw, and they put the siphon or the tube in the water. And what that siphon does is filter out the impurities in the water so they don't get sick. 50 miles just to get a clean drink of water. And we're in buildings like schools or where we work or offices, and there's water fountains all over the place with mostly clean water. Now, I know what's going on in Flint, Michigan, but for the most part, Americans can pretty much go in any office or any dwelling, even outside, and get a clean drink of water. And much respect and much love and sympathy and compassion for those who are suffering in Flint, Michigan without clean water. But you know what I'm saying? For the most part, we can go anywhere here in America and drink clean water. Do we thank the Most High for that? Do we thank Him for that? Look at the amount of grocery stores in America. Look at the amount of what they call all-you-can-eat places. Places like Golden Corral. They got tons of food there. Chicken and steak and lobster and shrimp and chocolate and strawberry cake. Chocolate and strawberry ice cream. Any treat, any food you can think of, they got it there. And it's tons of these places all around the country. Talking about these Golden Corrals and these all-you-can-eat places. And they probably throw away tons of food. I don't know if it's tons, but I bet you they throw away massive amount of food every night. And it's people sleeping under bridges with nothing to eat. Are we thankful for that? You go to Walmart, anything you need, from car parts to food to clothing to electronics, is in Walmart. It's Walmarts everywhere. And some people are barely making it. Barely making it. Are we thankful for that? Are you thankful for every day that you get up and you can get up and do your everyday business and be in good health? Have you ever been to the hospital? Have you been to the hospital lately? Have you been on the children's wing? Have you been in the cancer wing? People suffering and struggling for their life, black, white, whoever. I don't like to see no human being suffer. Have you given thanks? Have you given thanks for just the basic things that we have in life? This is the real Thanksgiving. There's nothing wrong with families coming together, breaking bread, communing, fellowshipping, sharing information and knowledge. I just wanted to give you the real history of what we call Thanksgiving, because a lot of people get it twisted. We have a lot of ungrateful people. Look at this book, The Hidden History of Massachusetts, and it will tell you what I laid down earlier. As graphic as it was, it's the truth. It's the truth. The hour of power don't tell you what we think, how we feel. 95% what the hour of power shares is facts. I will always have some kind of reference, whether it's the Bible, whether you believe in it or not. We believe it's from the Most High, from the Quran, or some kind of reference. The hour of power is going to give you some kind of reference of what we say. Look up the genocide of the Australian Aborigines and you tell me if what I said earlier isn't true. They used to hunt humans. And this brother said, I'm shocked that you know about this, brother. Please tell my story about my people. I said, I will. I'll share it on my channel. Salute Brother AJ, a brother who is a descendant of the Australian Aborigines. 95% fact, maybe 5% of what the hour power shares may be a feeling or an opinion, but 95% of what is shared on the hour power is straight, unadulterated truth and facts. You can look it up. You may not like the flavor of what I say, but you'll never call this channel or me a liar. Big ups to my group there in Pennsylvania, Brother Collins, Brother John, Brother Alafia. We're going to do this thing. We are going to change the narrative of what's going on there in York, Pennsylvania with the murder and bloodshed, especially with our youth. We're going to do what we can to change it. And I'm always working here in Durham, North Carolina. This is Brother Shareef with the Hour of Power. Go to Hour of Power, Brother Shareef on YouTube. Subscribe and share. I leave you in peace as I came. Assalamu alaikum to my Muslim family. Praise the Lord to my Christian family. Hotep to my Black conscious family. Shalom to my Hebrew Israelite family. And what's good to you, to my people in the streets. It all means peace. Give thanks to the one and only God. Thanksgiving is every day. The real Thanksgiving with Brother Shareef in the Hour of Power. Peace.